I live above a little shop on a street where the light hums at night. The stairs smell like coffee and dust. I work late and come home when the street is quiet. It started on a night I dozed on the couch. The kettle was warm. I woke around 2 because I thought I heard a knock. Knock, knock. I froze. The knocking came again, firmer. I crept to the peephole. The landing looked empty. I opened the door a crack, chain on. A man stood there, long coat, hat low. He smelled like cold and smoke. "Is this 22?" he asked. My mouth went dry. He said his car had died and his phone was dead. I thought about pepper spray and the neighbor with loud music. I opened the door a little more. The chain held. He stepped in with his coat on, warmed his hands on my mug, and called someone. "Wrong way." He said his name was Joseph. He hummed a tune, watched the street like he could see farther than I could. He knew the woman who had lived here before me, a woman the shop owner said had gone. He said her name like they were friends. I told him to leave. He said, "No police." Low. He folded my towel like someone who had done it here many times. He left with a smile that did not reach his eyes. After that, things shifted. A mug moved, a towel folded, the cat's bed out of place. I found a note on the mat. "You don't remember." No name. I checked locks, left lights on, made tea at odd times. I counted steps from door to couch and cracks by the sink. Days later, someone banged at midnight. A small box sat on the mat. Inside, a photograph of the woman on my couch, smiling. On the back, I waited. More items appeared. A button, a matchbook, a coin. Each felt like a message. I did not know if he was warning me or showing what he had done. I told a friend. He said, "Call the police." I did not at first. What would I say? One night I woke to tapping at the window like fingernails. A handprint appeared on the glass, then gone. I burned the photo and sat until dawn. In the morning, the handprint was on the inside of the glass, wet. I touched it. My fingers stayed dry. At the library, I found an old paper with a photo of a man named Joseph Hale. The face was his. The council clerk told me Joseph Hale had died years back. I felt punched. How could a dead man knock my door and drink tea? I tightened locks and added a latch. Notes pinned "Do not enter" were gone by morning. I changed my routes and carried pepper spray. Then I found a small key in my coat. A locker held my jacket and a stack of photos. My sister asleep on my couch, my shoe on the step, a hand on my door. I took them to the police. They said they would check. For a while I slept a little. Then I got a call. "Released on good behavior," an officer said. He had been arrested but let go. Those words tore my sleep. Small rules grew. One night the knock came like a single finger. I looked through the peephole and saw him under the streetlight, hat low. He tapped once. I whispered, "Don't open." The voice outside said my name. The voice I had heard at my kitchen table. The chain held. I opened a little more. He smiled like he had been waiting and smelled like rain and old tobacco. He asked, "Do you remember me?" The question hit like a weight. My mouth moved. "I don't," and I stopped. He slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a photograph of her and me. Young, me curled on the couch with her arm around me. A flash, winter light, kettle steam, a voice saying, "Sit here," then a hole. Memory returned in jagged pieces. "You said you would remember," he said. "You promised." The neighbor banged. The man touched the chain and it slipped. He left down the road. I ran after him into rain, but there were no footprints, only a smear where he'd been. The police took the photograph but seemed tired. Weeks passed. I kept the scrap in my pocket and the photograph in a drawer. A card slid under the mat. "You did. You remembered. That's enough." It should have eased me but left a hollow. Months passed. I learned to live with quiet rules. Locks, lights, kettle on. I watched the lamp from the window. The cat curls on the radiator. The knock changed everything. The door opened. Memory came back in pieces. Now I live by small things that mean a lot. A kettle, a scrap of paper, a photograph, a humming lamp. Maybe I wait for the knock to finish the sentence I could not keep. Maybe I'm waiting for nothing. It was around 2 a.m. last Tuesday, and I couldn't sleep. My apartment's on the third floor of an old building in the suburbs, with thin walls where you hear neighbors flushing toilets at odd hours. I'd been scrolling on my phone, ignoring the pile of dirty dishes in the sink from dinner, leftover pizza that left grease stains on the box. The fan hummed low, stirring dust that made my eyes itch. Then came the knock. Soft at first, like someone testing if anyone's home. I froze on the couch, phone slipping in my hand. Knocks at night aren't normal here. The buzzer downstairs usually rings first. But this was direct on the door. Tap, tap, tap. I waited, thinking maybe it's the wind, but no trees outside. It came again, louder, knuckles rapping wood. My heart raced, but I figured it was the guy from 3B, drunk and lost again. He'd done that last month, mumbling about keys. I got up slowly, barefoot on the cold tile, feet sticking from spilled soda I hadn't mopped, peered through the peephole. Outside, a man stood pale under the hallway light, in a thin hospital gown hanging loose. No shoes, just grippy socks. He looked lost, head tilted like listening for something inside. "Who is it?" I called, voice cracking. A pause. "They left me here. To sleep." His voice was flat, like reading a note. "Open up, it's cold." I hesitated, hand on the knob. Stupid. Should have called the cops, but he seemed confused, not threatening, like a wandered-off uncle. I cracked the door, chain on. "What do you mean? Left you? Who?" He blinked slowly, eyes watery. "The nurse. Said this is home." Dropped me off. He held up a clipboard, papers clipped messily. I unlatched, dumb, but pity won. Let him in a step, door half open. The hall smelled faintly of bleach. He shuffled inside, gown flapping, and sat on my couch uninvited, the one ripped in the arm from my ex's keys. "Wait," I said, locking the door. "What's your name? Why here?" He stared at the floor, toes curling in socks. "Robert." "Yeah, Robert. I remember the sofa like this, old and brown, and a woman by the kettle, humming, da-da-dum, like an old radio song." He hummed it off-key. I stopped. That tune, my mom hummed it making tea when I was a kid. Our old couch was brown, torn from the dog. Coincidence? It prickled my neck. "Okay, Robert, let me see the clipboard." He handed it, hands shaking. Top sheet had my address, but apartment number off by 1, 3C instead of 3B. Stamped with a hospital ward, supervisor's signature scrawled. "Discharge summary. Patient, Robert Klein. No family. Notes on missed meds, confusion from low staff." "This isn't right," I muttered, grabbing my phone. Dialed the hospital number. It rang forever. Finally, a tired voice. "Night desk. Hi. Guy here says dropped off by mistake. Robert Klein? Address almost mine." Sigh. "Hold on." Clicks, wait, mix-up, files swapped, understaffed clerk grabbed wrong stack. Trace in morning. "Keep him? Keep him? Send someone? Can't. Van's out, social worker AM." Click. Robert stared at my kitchen, head cocked. "Floor creaks funny, like when the cat chased shadows at night." My childhood house had a tabby that pounced in the dark, boards groaning. I paced, freaking inwardly. Made him tea, black, no sugar. He sipped, eyes on me. They said I'd sleep here, days in someone else's bed. More fragments, a name like my dad's nickname, kettle whistle like mom's. Hours dragged. I sat across watching him nod off. Called hospital again. No answer. Dozed fitfully, waking to mumbles. Left me to sleep forever. Dawn broke gray. Sharp knock. Social worker. Young guy with folder. Face pale. "Sorry, mistake. Files mixed. Used old tenants' details. Robert's no family. Records pulled wrong slip. Wrong med cycle. Identity lost in shuffle." They took him. Him glancing back blankly. Worker apologized, hand trembling. Happens more. Sloppy notes, thin shifts. Door closed, quiet hit. Couch indent lingered, like weeks. That hum echoes when alone. What if mix-up wasn't first? Institutions dropping people like lost mail, negligence in forms, worse than intruders. Could knock again any night. I never thought I'd tell this to anyone. After what happened last month, I can't sleep. I bought the house 3 years ago. Nothing special. 2 bedrooms, Needs work, cheap because the previous owner died. The knock came around 11 on a Tuesday. I was half watching a cooking show. 3 soft knocks made me mute the TV. I looked through the peephole. A man stood there, maybe 45, thin, wearing a jacket too big for him. He stared at the door like he could see me. I didn't open it. "What do you want?" I asked. "I used to live here," he said, quiet, flat. "When I was 8, that was all. I told him to come back tomorrow." He waited 10 seconds, then walked off. I watched him get into a beat-up car and drive away. The next day, I almost forgot. Then I found an envelope on my porch. No stamp, just my house number written in pencil. Inside were photocopies, old, crooked. A property deed from 1987 listed someone named Helen Vickers as owner. The person I bought from was Patterson. Another page was a regional youth services form with a redacted child's name, a 1991 date, and a stamp, "Placement resolved, file closed." The last page was one line. "Confirm rehoming to V household, parental consent obtained." A rushed signature. I almost threw it away, but the man's stare stopped me, like he was looking at something he'd lost. 4 days later, he came back. Same time, 3 knocks. This time, I opened the door. He looked exhausted, holding another envelope. "Can I come in?" he asked. I should have said no. I didn't. He went straight to the kettle. "You moved it," he said. "It used to be by the window." He stopped on the 4th step, put his foot on it, listened to the creak, and nodded. I used to skip it at night so nobody would hear me. He sat at my kitchen table and spread faded papers. Intake forms. 5 kids, different names and years. 1989, 1991, 1993, 1995, 1997. All placed at my address, all signed by the same caseworker. "Which one are you?" I asked. 1991, he said. "I was here for 14 months. He told me they brought him at night. A woman answered the door. The caseworker, Pruitt, did the talking. The woman signed. He said kids kept coming and going in the middle of the night. Pruitt showed up with paperwork. Money changed hands. The children were moved quietly. Once he tried to tell his teacher. Pruitt arrived the same day, pulled him out, and told the principal there'd been a misunderstanding. He slid another page across, a 1994 complaint about suspicious activity at the address, late-night visitors and kids being moved in and out. The report was marked unfounded, family uncooperative. "Uncooperative," he repeated. "They didn't even talk to us, just Pruitt." I felt sick. "Why tell me this?" I asked. He looked around my kitchen, the fridge, the marks on the wall. "Because nobody believes it happened," he said. "Regional Youth Services says I don't exist. Pruitt's dead. Helen Vickers died in 2019. The files are gone or sealed. We can't find each other." He folded the papers carefully and put them back in the envelope. I needed someone to know it was real, that I was here. Then he left. I kept the envelope in a drawer and started calling. The county line gave me polite scripts and weights. An archivist hinted at boxes lost in the 2006 flood. A social worker called back and said records were patchy. I knocked on neighbors' doors. Older people shrugged, remembered a busy house. At night, I dreamt of small beds folded into closets, of a child's voice counting to 10 on the 4th stair. The kettle that used to comfort me now made the room feel like someone else's kitchen. My cat started sleeping by the door, as if waiting. Every single night. I tried to look into it. County clerk said Regional Youth Services dissolved in 2003. Many records were destroyed in a flood. I found a 1998 article mentioning a caseworker named Pruitt under investigation for placement fraud. The case collapsed for lack of evidence. Helen Vickers' obituary listed no family. The house feels different now. I notice vertical marks where beds might have been, the way the 4th stair creaks. The kitchen, too big for one person, feels like someone else's memory. Sometimes I think about those kids, how many were moved quietly through that door, where they are now, whether anyone wrote down their names. I still live here, alone. I don't know what else to do. Every time someone knocks at night, I freeze, because I keep thinking, maybe there are more of them trying to prove they existed.